Well. Eagles OTAs, some media availability, finding out where players are being moved, all the highlights of OTAs for the day. I want to go over that. If I do sound nasally, it's because I've been sick the last couple weeks, and this video will be long because I want to go over every single detail of Eagles OTAs. So let's get into it.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. I can't talk today, so don't mind me. It's been a crazy couple weeks, but I'm excited about the early process of the Philadelphia Eagles OTAs. And we have to remember, guys, take it with a grain of salt that, the Eagles are not in full pads. They're not hitting each other. We're not facing another team yet. We're not doing any of that. This is a very early stage, so take everything with a grain of salt. Don't go crazy about it. But there is definitely a lot to talk about here since you have a killer draft, a lot of good players coming out of free agency for the Eagles. And, I think there's a lot of good things to talk about here. So we're going to go over the no-shows for the Philadelphia Eagles when it comes to specific players that were not there. This is obviously voluntary. So it looks like James Bradberry, Lane Johnson, Devontae Smith, Keely Ringo did not show up to practice. Now, obviously, James Bradberry is a big name, but we will talk about him later on in this video, which a lot of things will connect and make more sense. Now, could Nakobe Dean only stretched with the team? He did not practice. I mean, seriously, this is becoming a bigger problem. I know it's a Lynch Frank injury, I think, and he had his boot taken off in February. Why is this process? And I don't know. Maybe they don't think he's ready. Maybe they think, he has a little bit of time. I'm telling you right now, by June 4th, if he's not even practicing and doing drills, then I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. We're going to talk about the linebacker core and what it looked like on the 7-on-7s today later on because Nakobe Dean wasn't a part of that. He wasn't a part of anything. So hopefully Nakobe Dean can make it in June because as of right now, he's only stretching and not doing much of anything. And he needs some availability here because he needs an offseason program. He can't afford to stay out. Otherwise, he's going to be way behind terminology-wise. And when you're not playing, you're just not going to get better. Or not practicing, you're not even going to get it better. Or can't even show up to preseason games, you're not going to get better. So definitely a lot to talk about there. But we finally get our look at Saquon Barkley in Eagles green and looks fantastic. And I know a lot of the beat writers that were there at practice say that Saquon Barkley looks a lot leaner, looks a lot more thinner, but is packing a punch with, his speed, his athleticism, and just looks great out there and healthy and perfectly good. Now, he was, going out for passes, running routes, some handoffs from Jalen Hurts, some read options. So Saquon Barkley was doing everything today. And as a 3-down back, and the Eagles actually paying a running back now, I can't wait to see more from Saquon Barkley. Even Saquon Barkley had a press conference and talked about, it's nice to have the talent that you have around you. I think he appreciates it so much. Talked about A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and, he's not taking it for granted. And I think not only Eagles fans, but the whole world, the NFL fans want to see what Saquon Barkley will look like behind another offensive line. A good offensive line with at least with some talent around. And I think the Eagles were the best spot for him. I'm so glad we picked him up and can't wait to see more from him in the near future. Now, Will Shipley is another running back we definitely drafted this year. Probably one of my favorites from the draft because I think he's a legit dual threat and can be a legit number 2 for the Eagles in the future. There's a couple clips of him going out for some passes today. Fluid body motion after the catch. Just looks fantastic. And the only thing he's really got to work on is his, obviously his catching and, he's had some drops, he's had some fumble issues at Clemson. But I'm telling you, get this man right. And, Kenneth Gainwell will be gone after this year. It'll be Saquon Barkley and Will Shipley as your 1-2 punch. And, Will Shipley will be a nice receiving back for us as well and could be used in a lot of different ways. So very excited for him and can't wait to see more. Now, we took a look at the wide receivers today. A.J. Brown, the $32 million wide receiver that we have now. And, on a new deal, getting another new deal from the Philadelphia Eagles. And, A.J. Brown looks so menacing out there. I watched him in some of these bag drills, and he just looks so fast. Some of these slants and some of these routes that he's running. I think he did some training this offseason. He clocked in at like 23 miles an hour, 22 and a half miles an hour, or something like that. So A.J. Brown has been working his tail off, and obviously it's a vengeful year for this whole entire team. And A.J. Brown is definitely looking for another 1,000-yard season. Has been fantastic, and can't wait to see him. I think the talk of all of camp, at least all of the OTAs today, was Johnny Wilson. With the catch radius and what he could do going up for the catch and his long arms and almost being 6'7". I mean, look at Johnny Wilson and I just can't imagine what they're going to do with him this year. Now, I don't think he's a pure starter at wide receiver 3, as I know Anais Smith will probably hopefully win the job, and I think will be the best receiver coming out that wide receiver 3 competition. But I think with Johnny Wilson, he will be more of a overall better wide receiver going into 25 than going into this year. I think he will be used in more red zone for that big body he has, good blocking, and obviously having a lengthy body like that with his long arms, and his catch radius, what he could do is fantastic. 50-50 ball catch is fantastic. So everybody was just raving about his size and what he would look like, going on routes. And apparently he looked really good today. The athleticism is there, and can't wait to see these guys getting full pads and start really producing a lot, against each other. So Johnny Wilson, is a player to definitely watch out for this coming year and for the future as well. Now, this is where we're going to go into the 7-on-7s. We'll go into Jalen Hurts first because he completed 7 out of 7 passes, mostly to A.J. Brown. So like I said, guys aren't wearing full pads, and there is statistics for this that I will put out statistics when it comes to 7-on-7s, even though they don't matter as much. But, I mean, just to put them out there is a great thing. So Jalen Hurts was almost excellent today on the 7-on-7s. And going into linebackers, okay, this is where I think that things get really interesting here because Zach Bond was the first player that Vic Fangio actually spoke of during his first press conference for the Philadelphia Eagles and towards us fans to see what he's about as a person and what players he's talking about or who he likes. And the first person he came up, defensively when it came to linebackers was Zach Bond. Now in Eagles OTAs, he's playing more off ball. He did not go with the edge rushers at all. He's playing off ball linebacker, doing his thing there. And I think that's where they really want to use him because he lately transitioned to off ball with the Saints last year. So he hasn't really been playing it long, but it might be his strong suit, which could be in coverage, which could be one of Fangio's favorite players, big weapons of this defense. So I thought that was really interesting. So 7-on-7s. Now the starting linebackers on the list that they had at OTAs. Okay, they had Zach Bond and Devin White. They had Ben Van Simmeren and Oren Burks and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Brandon Smith. Okay, so obviously Nakobe Dean not practicing. We talked about why. Says he's not practicing because he's still hurt right now. Ben Van Simmeren with the second team of linebackers, which is really interesting. I mean, we know that Ben Van Simmeren, he was an undrafted free agent for Michigan State. He's a freak athlete, a lot of athleticism, just needs to know more terminology, and wondering if Ben Van Simmeren might turn up in this camp. So I'm actually really excited for him, and obviously Jeremiah Trotter getting more of a shot now because, Nakobe Dean's not playing, and hopefully Trotter makes more of a push on this roster, on this depth chart, going forward. And so those were your linebacker fits for your first and second and third string groups going into OTA 7-on-7. Now your cornerbacks to your safeties, we're going to go through everything now. Now 7-on-7s regarding your starting outside corners. With Bradberry not being there was Darius Slay, and you had Isiah Rodgers getting that outside spot. So Quinyon Mitchell not even getting that first outside spot, Isiah Rodgers. And we heard from Jeffrey Lurie that Isiah Rodgers, they have big plans for him. And maybe he's showing up at OTAs a little bit. I understand they don't have full pads on, but I thought that was really interesting. Then you had at nickel, you had Maddox. Avonte Maddox started at nickel, and then he actually moved as a third group safety. And then you had as your safeties, you had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you had Reed Blankenship there, which is obvious. But Cooper DeJean had second team reps at nickel and then played outside corner. As much as I wanted Quinyon Mitchell, they at least look that second group with Quinyon Mitchell at outside corner, Cooper DeJean in the nickel spot, which is great. So you had Slay. You had Slay in the second group or whoever else was on that side, plus DeJean on the inside, and then you had Quinyon Mitchell with that second team, which is great. So they're on the second team. It's an awesome thing, and I think it's going to progress as the weeks go on. So we'll see. But it's nice that they're moving a lot of guys around, and they're starting to cross-train some corners at safety and moving some guys around here and there. And I think there'll be a lot more movement in the coming weeks. Now, punt return was really interesting today because they had Cooper DeJean and they had Britton Covey on the punt returns. Now, Aniyah Smith was there. He did not practice today, so he's still dealing with that nagging injury. Aniyah Smith needs to practice. He needs to be ready by training camp. Number one thing. Okay, because that's going to be a big loss if he comes into camp and he's still hurt and he's missing so much time, and then they can't really do much with him if he's not available. So not only for punt return, but kick return. So there was no news on kick returns today, just punt returns. So at least we know, at least right now, Britton Covey could have some competition right now with Cooper DeJean, and obviously Aniyah Smith because he has that open track speed in the open field, which is great. So that's your punt return as of right now. Now we got a little bit of a glimpse from defensive end Bryce Hall, that's making $17 million a year for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was doing some of the bag drills, nice bend, really quick on the edge, and I can't wait to see him, actually push some people around, okay? This is one of the big signings the Eagles had this offseason with HaasonReddick being gone and in a trade that we had for him. And, hopefully this man produces and does well, and I feel really good about him, and he will be dropping in coverage as well. We all know this. Fangio even said it himself. They feel good about Bryce Hall dropping in coverage and doing his thing. So he looked really good. He looked real fast, good quick step off the edge, and can't wait to see more from him. Not only did we see Bryce Hall, but we saw Jordan Davis as well today. And I got to say, man, it is showing on tape that Jordan Davis looks like he's a lot more in shape than I ever thought he was going to be. Okay, after seeing him at the awareness for the Eagles, okay, for the big thing that they usually have every single year, and seeing him on that bike and seeing him sign autographs, okay. I mean, how lean he did look in that picture really was like frightening a little bit, but it was great because Jordan Davis has been putting in a lot of work in the offseason with Milton Williams. Jalen Carter had some things to say about it at the press conference today and said that, yes, Jordan Davis has been putting in the extra work every single day, and Jalen Carter did say for himself that he has taken no breaks this offseason, and this defensive line looks like it's ready to go. So it's nice to hear from some of our defensive linemen that they really haven't taken any time off to relax or do anything, that football is on their mind 24/7. Jalen Carter's ready, and to hear other players talk about Jordan Davis and the workouts that he's been doing this offseason and just the offseason he's been having is a fantastic thing to really look at. So feel really proud of that and feel good about Jordan Davis. And if you watch some of the video here, I mean, he looks really fast, I got to say. Can't wait to see the pads on, see him hit people, and see what type of player is going to year 3 because this is a make or break a year for him, and, feel good about it. So. Now, talking about Jalen Carter, he did talk about Vic Fangio. He says he really likes him as a hard-nosed coach and really respects him. And he says he loves Vic. But it was so funny because during the Miami practices at OTAs, this is real, guys. Like, Miami practiced at OTAs the other day. There was some news that came out, okay, from safety Javon Holland. Okay, talked about the new defensive coordinator. Said, what's the difference between Fangio and this new defensive coordinator? And pretty much said that he's a good person. So he's pretty much calling Fangio a bad person. That quote unquote, it's a total 180. I mean, seriously? Like, what? Are these Miami players just that soft or what? Because I don't see any Eagle players hating this guy. And it's like I said, it's early in the process, but, we need an asshole coach. Unfortunately, we do. We can't have a nice coach that talks there, like Vic Fangio is a demanding coach when it comes to his practices. Even Coach Fangio is pushing for, harder practices if he could, or pushing, not harder practices, but he would push for 2-a-days. But the Eagles, the league can't do 2-a-days anymore because of a rule that was, kind of fixed a long time ago. So we know what type of coach we're getting with Vic Fangio. It seems like the players are already liking him off the bat. Jalen Carter is one of those players. So I don't know what's going on with Miami over there, but, I don't know what's going on. But that was the news that came out on that. Now, Big Play Slay had a press conference as well and talked about Quinyon Mitchell and how much of a great talent he is. which was a great thing to hear. And, I really like that, Slay is one of those veteran players that is willing to help out the younger guys, that he's not going to just be like, oh, it's my job and this is what I'm going to do. And, Slay talked about that he feels like he's 25 all over again. He feels like he's in good shape going into this year. And with a lot of young, talented corners behind him, he's willing to give them as much knowledge as possible, which I really like that. When Quinyon Mitchell was drafted, I really liked the fact that he talked about, getting together with him and someone's going to take my job sooner or later. So I want to give as much as I possibly can to these young guys that are going to take over for me for when I retire. So I definitely like that from Slay, and I respected that from Slay a whole lot. Now, he did talk about James Bradberry. He says that him and James Bradberry are always in constant contact. He's in quote unquote good spirits, and he can't wait to help out the young guys as well. So far, this Bradberry thing, it's sounding like he's going to be here. Right now, I'm waiting for June 1st to see if anything happens post June 1st. If Bradberry is released or traded or something is in the works here, because I'm sorry, but redshirting a first-round pick cornerback, for me, redshirting, period, I can't stand. We've done that once. It was a total failure with Andre Dillard. I don't want to do that again with another first-round pick, especially if Bradberry's not going to be here long-term, especially next year. What's the point of even keeping him? I've questioned this a million times. I said, hey, if they didn't get rid of him in free agency or try to just trade him or something, then he's not going anywhere. If he was still on the roster by draft time, then he was still going to be here. But I just don't want to believe that he's still going to be here. Maybe the other part of it is they think that Bradberry is going to play well under Fangio because Fangio was a consultant in 2022 for the Super Bowl year for the Philadelphia Eagles. So maybe they feel like because of defensive lines, they get more pressure, third in pressures for the year, that, Bradberry is going to play better. And yes, corners should play better when there's definitely more pressure, and the Eagles never hit home with their defensive line. But I don't know. I just feel like if you draft a first-round talent like Quinyon Mitchell, I feel like you cannot waste it and let him sit all year, because I think that would just be the biggest mistake. And I feel like then next year will be like his preseason all over again, learning all over again. And hopefully this defense actually pans out and works, this year. So we'll find out what happens with that. So should be interesting. Now, talk about plays being made by the Philadelphia Eagles. It looks like Quinyon Mitchell had a really big day today with a couple of pass breakups. He had one on Johnny Wilson. He had another one on a deep ball from Kenny Pickett to Jacob Harris that he broke up. So it's nice to see that Quinyon Mitchell is making plays already during the OTAs process and getting his thing going. So I'm hoping the more he does that, the better he gets, and the more the Eagles are thinking about him starting as an outside corner. I mean, he should. We've talked about it a million times, but he's already making plays, which is fantastic. Not only Quinyon Mitchell, but Devin White. Saquon Barkley was on a wheel route going up the sideline. And it looks like, Devin White had another pass breakup today as well. So, Devin White is kind of reviving himself in Philadelphia in his new career, a new beginning for Devin White. I think he's going to become one of the best linebackers we've ever had. And I think people are dogging on him too much. I think he's one of the most underrated players in this defense. Is going to do a really good job. And I'm very excited for him to be in this linebacker core, and how they've used Devin White in OTAs. He's been a pure starter in OTAs as of right now. So I don't think that's going to change for a bit, and I'm excited to see more from him. But other than that, that's pretty much it, guys. So that was really the media availability day for OTAs for the Eagles. I can't wait to go over more with you guys. I thought it was really exciting. A lot of information, where players are being put. Excited about Saquon Barkley and Bryce Hall and the defensive line with Jordan Davis, and just how a lot of these guys do look. And like I said, this is the early process. We're not in full pads. And, I can't wait till we're actually hitting somebody else in another jersey when it comes to joint practices and the preseason games and all that great stuff. If you enjoy some of the content here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We cover the Eagles every single day. Every OTAs and training camp, we go over everything throughout the entire day. If you like video formats like this and stuff like that, make sure you like the video. It does help out the channel tremendously. If you haven't checked out the Philly Shakedown podcast merch, definitely check out the merch. Link is in the description below. We have the new Howie Roseman Big Pimpin' shirt that is out right now. We have the Flying Frenchman Cooper DeJean shirt that is out right now. We have some Axeman 2 merch as well going forward. And if you want to support the podcast, Gerald, the Philly Shakedown podcast shirt is out too. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes it up, follow side. Peace out, guys. Base.